In this chapter, I'm going to show you how to finalize the tertiary details on your character and how to apply alphas with alpha brushes. This is the website where you can get really good alphas, is Texture XYZ, and they have many different kind of textures, starting from faces, multi-channel iris. I personally use a lot in ZBrush these body displacements and animals alphas. You can see here the frogs alpha that I'm using. I'm going to be using for my tutorial. Another really good source is ZBrush Guides by Pablo Munoz Gomez. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. He sells excellent alphas and alpha brushes on this site. But let's see what you should do once you bought an alpha. So you have to go into Photoshop and most of the time do some manipulation to these alphas. For example, you can see this palm is ending really abruptly over the edges, and this would be a problem when you use this alpha into ZBrush. So what I do is I create a layer underneath of the same value, and I just create a mask, and with a soft brush I'm just going to fade this into the background. This is the result, and then I'm going to flatten all the layers, making sure that in the channel there is no alpha, and save as a grayscale 16 bits. Now you have your alpha, and then you need to create your brush. Back into ZBrush, that's how you create alpha brushes. You can load your standard brush, and the first thing you are going to do is go here under brushes and clone this brush. And the second thing you want to do is change the stroke into drag rectangle. Then you go into your library of alphas and get one alpha, apply the alpha, and just test it. Now, something that really would help when you create this brush is to check an option which is quite hidden into ZBrush. Under the alpha palette, you should check this surface button, which helps to maintain the position of the surface. If you see carefully, when I'm drawing, this is displacing and moving a little bit the surface, and you don't want this. This surface option helps you not to move the surface. I suggest always when you create alpha brushes to have the surface on. Then, for example, I like this brush, and what do? I just need to grab this icon if I want to have a nice icon and easy to recognize. So I go under texture and grab shaded dock, and you can see the icon is here. Then I can save this icon. Go test 2, for example. You can crop the icon if you want. And then here, Alt click on the select icon, and now you can choose your customized icon. So I pick test 2, and then remove it from here. So I get the proper stroke, the proper alpha loaded, and I can save the brush. I can save this as a test 3, for example. And now I have my custom brush. Something also very important is when you grab this icon, make sure that your document is a square document, 512 by 512, and you're pretty much done. I'm going to start working on the head now, and I'm going to add and refine secondary shapes and progressing into tertiary shapes and using alpha to sculpt details on the skin. So I'm starting here by duplicating the head. I find that this is a really fast way to compare the before and after instead of relying on layers. Usually I just work on one layer, and in this way I can just jump back and forth the two heads, the before and after, just moving with the up and down arrow key on the keyboard. This gave me a really fast comparison, so I use it quite a lot. I'm continuing to add more of the secondary shape, which will transition on into tertiary shapes. I believe that this is really an important stage, and many people really overlook this. They just jump really fast into tertiary shapes and applying many alphas, and I don't think that this is a really good practice. I think that you should really work very hard on your secondary shapes, because they are the one that really are going to give character to your character, and they can really make the transition happening from big forms to medium forms and to little and detailed forms. You should really take care of these transitions. Like you see here now, I'm sculpting this transition between these big folds on the jaw and sort of medium folds. And I want to try also to imply that something is going on under the skin. The skin is not perfect, is not perfectly smooth, and has a lot of imperfections. So there will be areas where is not regular, and I want to give this sort of irregular feeling under the skin, the feeling of muscle, the feeling of nerves, not only a perfect flat surface. I'm really working on these big pimples on the skin and implying also all these transitions between big, medium, and small shapes. Now I'm working more around the eyes and enhancing with the Dam Standard, enhancing these big bulges and these big bags under the eyes. Pretty much done with this, and I'm going to jump to a different area in a bit. As I said, I just comparing the shapes and changing the color sometime or changing material could help you to see and spot shapes that you didn't notice before. So sometimes maybe I sculpt looking at the right side for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then turn on to the other side just to see, because sometimes your eye that just getting really used to looking at something for very long, and you should always change perspective and angle and changing shader, changing the light. This help really quite a bit to refresh your eyes. Something that I also like to do is going inside the mouth and on the lips and drawing vertically with the clay build-up brush to build a bit of lips there, because many times they could look quite flat. Here I'm extending the wrinkle these big shapes under the jaw. And I'm continuous sculpting with the combination of clay buildup, and damp standard. And this helped me also to get transitions and imperfection under the skin. This little shadow that I'm trying to create are imperfections on the skin, which imply the shape of the muscle underneath. I'm going to add more of these huge warts. They really are making the character more interesting, I think. Enhancing the shape again with the damp standard. Damp standard is extremely good tool. I use it pretty much to do everything, to enhance any shape, because can cut through polygons as the standard cannot really do. Just a much stronger brush, and can get you into really small, medium details. Something also that I think is very important is to build your observational skills. I think is one of the most important skills for a character artist. And I really suggest people that want to take seriously this job to practice drawing with paper, not only work on digital, trying to sculpt in traditional if you can, copying animals, copying people from life or from photographs. I think that this is the most important skill that you should build. And I always think at ZBrush as a really expensive pencil. For me, is just a tool, and should be used as a tool. Don't just rely on the software, thinking that the software is going to solve all your problems. Sculpting and drawing didn't change in centuries. It's all the same. We just have better tools now. Things that I was literally dreaming about these sort of tools when I was 20 years old, and people of the new generation are really lucky to have access to digital painting and digital sculpting. They are really great tools, but shouldn't forget the traditional. It's very important. Now I think I'm comparing before and after, and turning off the recording on this layer, adding one more subdivision, and creating another layer where I'm going to start to add alphas. So I grab this brush I created with the frog skin alpha, and I'm starting to apply it in different parts of the head. I start with the top of the head, then moving to the sides, making sure that I'm changing the size of the brush. I'm dragging bigger strokes on the top of the head, where the skin will be much more stretched, and obviously the skin patterns will be much smaller around the eyes and get gradually bigger and bigger over the cheeks, for example. So I'm going to the other side and continuing to apply these alpha brushes. I'm going to cover most of the face with this. This pattern works extremely well, being frog skin, obviously. Moving to the top again and trying to break just slightly the symmetry here. And going all around the mouth now. One advice is not to be carried away too much and just dragging everywhere alpha brushes of the same size. When you add details with the alpha, always need to be mindful of the different areas of the face and how the skin is going to be stretched in different areas. Now I'm changing to a spray brush, which also I created with the frog skin. And I'm going to use this for the bottom part of the jaw and the soft skin there. So I can sort of apply a different kind of skin under the chin, if I can call chin the lower part of the jaw of the frog. This has much smaller shapes and sort of more subtle variations. So I'm going to apply the spray a couple of times and transitioning from top to bottom. Most of the time it's just a matter of continuing this process. Can be really fast. And it's quite impressive how in a short time everything starts to come to life. Just adding these details, the head start to be much more believable. Something that before was just looking like a simple sculpt, now is increasing the level of realism quite a bit. Now I'm continuing to add more details. I'm creating another layer and call this Goosebump. Is exactly the name of the alpha that I'm using. And I start to draw quite few of them of smaller size around the lips and the mouth, and much bigger sizes on the jaw and the lower part of the mouth and the fat part. Then I start to add even more around the eyes, and basically I'm filling in many different areas, always thinking about different sizes in different areas. Usually frogs have quite a lot of them around their eyes, and also on the top of their nose. It's a matter of repeating the same process, and quite big one under the fat part of the jaw. This is a really sort of repetitive task, then in a way free your brain, and I can spend really hours and hours detailing, but you should always try to understand where to stop and put the right amount. Now I'm drawing single ones. They're called pimples, I believe, like quite big warts and pimples over the face of this frog. Now I'm going with the Dance Thunder brush and manually add wrinkles in different parts of the head. So I'm basically thinking about the fact that the wrinkles are always sort of perpendicular to the direction of the muscles. And especially here around the mouth, I always draw sort of vertical lines, trying to make sure that when I'm around the center of the symmetry, I turn off symmetry and do some asymmetry in that area. I'm going to start to work on the hands. I'm going to duplicate the body and then extend the polygroups of the hand, making sure that I select clean row of polygons, and the cut is going to be hidden under this bandage. Here see I'm cleaning the polygon selection and checking that is hidden, and polygrouping. And I'm going to do the same for the other hand. I linked a command to plus and minus to shrink and grow the visibility. This is under the visibility tab, and in this way you can really grow and shrink the visibility of polygons very fast. I'm counting, so I'm sure that I have the same amount of row on the right side and the left. And now I'm going to split by polygroup. You need to be careful because when you split by polygroup, you need to be at the highest resolution, so you don't lose all the sculpt that you did, and you're going to keep all the subdivisions. I'm going to get rid of the subtools which I don't need, and I'm just going to work on the left hand for now. So basically I'm going to just sculpt the left hand, and then I'm going to mirror it. There's really no need to sculpt two hands. In production sometime, or I should say most of the time, you need to really try to create a shortcut and ways to be fast. And you can do it in two ways. Or you do this in symmetry, or you do, as I do now, sculpt only one end, then mirror it, and then after reproject all the details. I rather do this technique because honestly when you start to spin around, it's quite difficult to move around having two hands visible. So many times I just use this technique. I just work on one hand, then when I finish all the sculpt, I just mirror the hand, and then after reproject the details, and if I want to create some asymmetry, I will do it later. Doing this way is so much easier to work, having to worry only about one end. Now I just create a polygroup for each finger, and this is going to be very useful when I start to work on more detail for each finger. So they will be really easy to hide and show again. I'll just show one of the finger, polygroup it with Ctrl W, and repeat the same process for all of them. This is the last finger. Polygroup it, and I'm ready to sculpt now. Save it just in case. And I'm starting to sculpt. I'm increasing the length of the lazy radius because this is going to help me quite a bit when I model with the standard brush and with the damp standard. I tend to increase the lazy radius between 10 or 20. That allow me to be much more precise with my line. Here I'm starting to sculpt the biggest shapes, looking at some reference. Usually for this process I really prefer to look at the black and white reference. As I said before, this will take away the color information, and I can concentrate only on the shapes and the shadow created by the shapes, and that is going to be quite useful for me. Sculpting the interior of the palm, giving some more dimension of the fat area inside the palm, just using clay build-up, smoothing, and dam standard. Modeling a bit more the fat part of the palm at the end of the fingers. I'm going to move to another area soon, giving a bit more detail there of the crease between the fingers with the dam standard. I'm giving more shape with the standard brush first. Sometimes I start with the standard brush, of very low intensity, and then I carve more with the dam standard, which is extremely powerful to cut shapes inside the polygons. It can give me shape that usually will take me much more time with a standard brush. Now I'm adding the connection between the knuckles and the finger. I'm sort of creating a round shape first, and then I go with a sort of a V shape to connect the knuckle to the more fat and less bony part of the finger. It's really invaluable to look at a good reference and try to study anatomy, to really understand the anatomy underneath. Not only the surface, but try to understand also the bones under the skin and the tissues. I have quite a lot of reference which I collected over the years. I really recommend to everybody to do a big personal library, which I call the Visual Bible. It's a series of folders that is always on my computer, where I have different categories of anatomy with different body parts, or painters, sculptors. I think this is a really good habit to build your own reference, and don't always relying on internet, because honestly internet is very distracting, and you can't waste an hour every time you need a reference or a good reference of a hand. You enter in internet and just times fly away. You should really have your own library of reference, especially reference for anatomy. For example, now I'm referencing a book with a black and white photograph, and you can see that the starting shapes are very basic. This is extremely helpful because at the beginning I just want to concentrate on basic forms. One of the best books that I use extensively is Anatomy for Sculptors, which I show you at the beginning of these tutorials, by Uldis Zarins and Sadis Kandrats. I hope that I pronounced their name correctly. It's an excellent book and gave me an incredible insight into the human anatomy. The good part is that they really show you the basic forms, and then they build up from that, so you can understand really how to simplify the anatomy to start with, and then building layers of complexity on top. Here I'm starting to create these folds in the inside of the finger, separating the too fat part of the tissue from the more bony parts. I'm basically drawing a rhomboid shape, an elongated rhomboid with the Dam standard, and making sure the fold is in the right spot behind the knuckle. As you can see in the reference image, where the finger is bending, there is a slightly offset on the position of the wrinkle and the knuckle and the fat tissue. This will be extremely helpful when this cutter is going to be rigged in an ideal pipeline. Now I'm starting to work on the top of the hand and the fingers, creating more defined shapes on the side of the palm. The transition between palm and dorso of the hand mostly is a back and forth of standard brush, smoothing, Dam standard, and clay buildup. I don't really use more than that at this stage. I'm implying some of the forms of the tendon on the dorsal of the hand, and I'm starting to create this more soft tissue area on the knuckles, which create quite big wrinkles and folds. I'm looking at some black and white reference here from the same book. It's basically building a round shape and folds connecting the knuckle area to the more elongated part of the finger. I'm trying to make them slightly different shapes, so they're not exactly the same. Just going around and giving some S shape in some cases, or round shape folds over the knuckle. See how useful now are these polygroup, which I created before. Just with one click I can isolate one finger, concentrate on that one finger, model it, sculpt it, and then unhide the hand and just go to the next finger. I'm evaluating the wrinkles at different distances, close up as well as far. Here I'm starting to increase the level of details. Basically, I'm going to do a second pass only with the Dam standard and carving in more of these folds. As you can see, I'm going to the top part of the hand and the finger, drawing more lines, and then switching to the bottom in a second, just emphasizing these shapes. Increasing the visible polygons using plus and minus. And here I'm also carving some more shapes on the fat tissue, the fat part of the finger. Here I'm increasing more the level of details by adding more wrinkles. So basically doing that, I'm preparing a really good base for the alpha brushes later on. I'm going to start to draw alpha brushes, so I'm turning off this layer, subdividing more the mesh, and creating another layer called alpha, storing a morph target before I start, and I start to test the intensity of these brushes. I start with the top of the hand. You can see it's very intense, and I need also more subdivisions. I'm testing again, and also making sure that it's not affecting the palm of the hand. So I'm dragging, checking that it's in the right spot, and masking all the rest that I don't want to influence with my alpha. Now it's pretty good. I didn't affect the bottom part and all the other areas. I'm cleaning up with a smooth and changing to another alpha. I'm testing the second alpha. And I'm going to do the palm now. Again, masking the top, dragging the second alpha, and trying to match as much as I can the wrinkle on the palm. Sometimes you really need to drag multiple times until you get the correct placing. Here I'm just smoothing a bit, making sure that it's not that intense everywhere. Now I'm looking for another brush. You can see how important it is to have the right icon. I can see just with the blink of an eye what kind of brush I'm dragging. Here I'm doing just a sort of horizontal line to connect the first alpha to the next. Now I'm doing a sort of a spray to add a generic skin texture a bit of everywhere. And I'm going to switch to this sort of cross-etching brush, which is extremely helpful to connect different areas. If you think about it, most of our skin is a sort of a cross-etching. Now I'm changing brush again. I'm testing different things. They're not really working well. I'm looking for pores, I think, now. This is the pore brush. So I'm adding more pores. Now I'm starting to do the knuckles, blending also the wrinkle on the palm. I'm starting to drag the alpha with the knuckles, and I'm going to do all of them. There are two variations, so I'm going to use both alternatively. And sometimes I drag in one direction, sometimes I drag in the opposite direction, so they have a bit more randomness, and if they are too repetitive, I'm going to just sculpt with the dump standard. As you can see, the base that I put underneath is helping me a lot, so they don't look all the same and look much more natural. Now I'm masking the two extremity of the finger and dragging another alpha. This is looking okay, and I'm just going to repeat the same process. I have one alpha for each finger, so I'm choosing which one is the good one that I need. I'm just dragging, doing an inverse mask so I don't affect other parts of the hand. So that's the second finger. I need to find the correct spot. This sometimes take multiple attempts. Switching to the other finger, remasking, and repeating the same. Now I'm starting to work on the bottom part of the finger and changing to find the appropriate alpha. Here I'm following the same pattern, masking, unmasking, and dragging alpha. These are sort of vertical lines. This alpha was created using the bottom part of the fingers. So is what you would expect looking at the bottom part of the finger. And remember always also to look at your hand. That is sounds quite obvious, but many times we don't realize that we can use our own body as a great source of reference. Observing our hands can be useful in this case. Then I start to drag this sort of horizontal line just to blend the two parts, the top and the bottom. So in this way I'm just blending top and bottom again. Here I'm isolating one finger and checking that everything is working correctly and working on the side part of the finger again. Saving is a good habit. And doing more of this horizontal line just to connect. I don't want to leave blank areas that they are way too smooth for the skin. Now this finger being a mixture of human and frog anatomy, I decided to remove the nail because I think the frog don't have nails, so I remove it. It may look for some people really a odd end, but I believe it's going to give some sort of personality to this character. It's not 100% human, so one part human, one part frog. Here I'm switching to the Dam Standard and having a really small radius, I'm going to do more wrinkles drawn by hand. This is a really good way to accentuate some of the wrinkles and folds and also connect the missing areas. Because when you drag alpha, for sure there will be some areas that are not going to be texture, let's say. So there will be some gaps. Some area will look too smooth. And that's when these paths come into play. I'm going to break up some of these shapes. Especially here I'm going to do little tiny scratches, because if you look at your hand, the lines are never really one line, but they're really a sort of a tiny cross-hatching, which is never continuous. It's always broken up in little chunks. Here I continue to give more shapes and drawing in between the fingers and mostly on the side area and the interior part. As I say, it's quite a long process, but it's very rewarding. It's where the sculpt start to become believable and really taking shape. What before was just a muddy shape that resemble a hand, now it really start to look like a hand. And it's really worth it to put the extra hour into this. In the end, adding all these little pieces is what makes the character believable and relatable by anybody. Now I'm adding an extra layer of complexity to the hand by drawing these big pimples on top, so breaking up even more the realism and making it a bit more frog-like. The goosebump alpha is coming back, and I'm going to exaggerate these words, this word area, sort of making it a little disgusting, taking away that too much of a human hand that we had before. So it's going more in the realm of froggy nature again. I'm going to put really big words on the tip of the finger compared to the bottom, which would be quite small. Now I'm going to duplicate the hand, bake all the layers. Sometimes when you bake, you have this weird bug in ZBrush, which color in black the material that you need to just repaint in white, and you're okay. I don't know why is that bug there, and till now they didn't fix it. Here now I'm going to do an extra pass with the contrast brush, which help to enhance the contrast of the detail you just finished to sculpt. There's also a contrast tool, but you need to be really careful how to use it and just increase little by little the value. I'm checking before and after, and you can see that added quite a bit of detail and contrast in the details of the hand. Here I'm checking different intensities, and in fact I leave the contrast contrast layer at 0.5 because I think it was too strong. Then I'm saving, and with the Subtool Master mirroring the hand. The first time didn't do it for some strange reasons, and I'm going to redo it again, baking the layer first. Maybe that was the reason. Here I'm mirroring. This time will be successful, I believe. It take a bit of time because it's around 6 million polygon per hand. I'm evaluating the left and the right hand, doing some test render. Everything look good, and for now I think we are done. We have a high level of details on the head and high level of details on the hands, and I'm going to do just a turntable to see how it looks. Here's the turntable. I think it looks pretty good for now, and see you in the next chapter.